tear. I've got to stop eating so much blue cheese. Hello, World Wide Web. I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality with the best hair. Last summer, I was ready. I was hyped. The long-awaited prequel to Alien, Prometheus, was finally out. And how did that go? Yeah, not so good. But like everything in life, it's not a black or white, good or bad, 5 stars or 0 situation. Prometheus exists in the gray areas of film, where it does some things really fantastically. And others, well... You get your first facehugger, and it's not a facehugger. It looks like a dick. As many people have told me I'm simply wrong and this wasn't a prequel to Alien, allow me to clarify. Prometheus is set in the Alien franchise, with familiar worlds and corporations, but at the earliest point in the timeline, otherwise known as the basic definition of a prequel. There's a lot I wanted to find out from the film going in, and even more questions it brought up, and, well, I guess we'd better take a look at Prometheus and see if my opinion on it has changed in these last few months. The film opens to sweeping landscape shots and epic music, which look very good in 3D, and probably look great in high def too, but what the fuck happened on DVD? I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and just assume that my DVD ripping software somehow fucked up, as I really hope it's not normal that Prometheus is presented in 640 by 360. Nevertheless, after a couple of minutes, we see a huge ship pulling away, leaving behind a naked guy with a bizarrely plastic physique and a small cup of black goo. Malty, warm, the rosy fragrance. And it has one hell of a kick! Yeah, it sure does. The Ken doll disintegrates and dies, with his very DNA shredding asunder. It comes back together again, though, which is genetically impossible, but let's not let science get in the way now. Look! New life! This intro confused the fuck out of me when I first saw it, but it was explained that it's likely that they were just seeding a planet with life. We didn't need to go to such extremes when we populated Hawaii, but never mind that. After this, we are shown a discovery by Elizabeth Shaw and Charlie Holloway, played by Noomi Rapace and Logan Marshall Green, respectively.
Did you date it?
35,000 years, maybe older.
You gotta be kidding me.
She must be kidding you! A 35,000-year-old cave painting in the Isle of Skye, Scotland? That whole area was encased in many, many sheets of ice. It was the Ice Age, after all. But the giant with the foot hand pointing at the random balls is the last piece of really, really weak evidence that the team needs to get the go-ahead for a $1 trillion mission into deep space, where we meet David, played by Michael Fassbender, whom likes to spy on people's dreams.
Heaven? Paradise? Whatever it's called. Someplace beautiful.
How do you know it's beautiful?
Because that's what I choose to believe. What do you believe in?
Well, at least that explains the go-ahead. We have a so-called scientist who's been trained from a young age to just assume things without evidence. Wonderful. This sequence also shows off Fassbender's acting prowess rather well, and is less subtle with the hints of his character. Rather, it's like being beaten over the head with a bat that has "he's an android" carved into the side of it.
Well, what's the trick then?
The trick, William Potter, is not minding that it hurts.
The trick, William Potter, is not minding that it hurts.
Or he's a film reviewer. They reach their destination, and we are introduced to the rest of the important characters, including Charlize Theron as Meredith Vickers, the terse, no-nonsense authority figure, and Janek, the completely laid-back captain of the ship.
What the hell is that?
It's Christmas. Need the holidays to show time and still moving.
How would she not know about it yet? They had to pack it with the ship. It's a few light years away from the nearest Wayland Mart. After a few other characters tell us how fast they're going to die...
I ain't here to be your friend. I'm here to make money. You got that?
We find out that 90% of the crew flew out all this way before even learning why they were going on this mission.
The same pictogram showing men worshipping giant beings pointing to the stars was discovered at every last one of them. And the only galactic system that matched was so far from Earth Doctor. There's no way that these primitive, ancient civilizations could have possibly known about it.
You sure you got the right star cluster? I mean, 6 stars out there. A specific pattern probably comes up more than a couple times.
But that system has a sun.
Oh, that's a 6-planet system. It's even more common.
Just one planet with a moon capable of sustaining life. And we arrived there this morning.
Notice the planet's code, LV-223, not the same as LV-426 from the original Alien. Of course, Alien 3 took place on Furiona Fury 161, and Alien Resurrection said that those events happened on Fury 16. So, which planet is this? Who knows? Shaw goes on to pull exposition out of her ass, saying they were downright invited by the engineers who were the creators of the human race.
Okay, so, do you have anything to back that up? No, I mean, look, if you're willing to discount 3 centuries of Darwinism...
Wait, of what?
Darwinism.
You mean evolution, right?
Darwinism.
Sounds like it was written by a creationist. Weird, considering Ridley Scott's an atheist.
But how do you know?
I don't. But it's what I choose to believe.
And that's it! Evolution is never brought up again! And never spoken of by name. Before they land, Corporal Cunt wants to have a word with the archaeologists, but they're too busy nosing around their private lifeboat like kids on a field trip.
Please verbally state the nature of your injury.
Please don't touch that. It's a very expensive piece of machinery.
It does bypass surgery. What do you need it for?
What? She got caught up in one of those late-night infomercials, and it seemed like such a deal at only 500 monthly payments of $49.99. She explains that she's skeptical of any alien life, and if they do find some, their top priority is to report back, not to brashly rush in and ask for autographs. They depict it in the most sinister way possible, but Vickers' orders are a hell of a lot closer to proper scientific study than what they're trying.
Why did you even bring us here?
Because it's your grasping at straws hypothesis that brought them out there? To the tune of $1 trillion?
Wayland was a superstitious man. He wanted a true believer on board.
So Prometheus is what happens when creationism meets Scientology? I hope this isn't a sign that Ridley's going to start his own religion soon. After this, they move to set down and get a few initial readings.
Just like home.
Only if you're breathing through an exhaust pipe. CO2's over 3%. 2 minutes without a suit, you're dead.
So this move's capable of sustaining life as long as you bring your own respirator. And wouldn't you know it, the random spot they choose to descend to just so happens to be near some clearly manufactured landmarks, so they descend to a convenient road still a good distance away from one of the mounds.
Tell the survey team to suit up and meet us in there, Yarlock.
There's only 6 hours left of daylight. Why don't you leave it till the morning?
Oh, no. It's Christmas, Captain. And I want to open my presents.
You arrived on December 21st. Unless it took you 4 days to land, don't worry about it. Of course, everyone is able to suit up and head out in less than 10 minutes, and I must admit it is believable to some extent. After all, it's easy to calibrate each suit to each member when evidently they all have the exact same heartbeat no matter what's going on. Except for David, who just shows a flat line. Wouldn't want to seem unrealistic now. Sean Harris's character, Fifield, a geologist, just so happens to also be a navigator and digital cartographer, whom helps map the structure out with his magic balls. Which bring them to an oxygen spring, so of course Holloway does what you always must do in a sci-fi flick after mentioning the air is breathable. Woo! They show off their disapproval for this ridiculously dangerous behavior by taking all their helmets off as well. I'm sure they're just trying to be hipster ironic or something. Plus, without their respirators, they're completely at the mercy of the random holographic recording to take their breath away. This vision leads them to find an engineer's body, which lost its head. Furthermore, Fifield begins losing his.
But what you do seem to care about is gigantic dead bodies. And I don't really have anything to contribute in the gigantic dead body arena! I'm gonna go back to the ship.
Remind me never to bring that guy along to a paleontological exhibit. But about the gigantic dead bodies, let's compare. Alien? Prometheus?
Been decapitated by it.
Alien? Prometheus?
How long's it been dead?
2,000 years, give or take.
Yeah, the engineers are big, but somehow they seem smaller than the original space jockey. After David uses his super linguistics powers to open up the door, we find out what all the engineers were running towards.
Look forward. It's the head.
A room full of jars of black goo with a big freaking head in it! Because, it was, they were fleeing from... Oh, look, a Xenomorph! That explains everything! A storm conveniently interrupts their discovery, so while Shaw works to bag the head as quickly as possible, David disobeys direct orders to leave the containers alone, packing one while everyone else is too distracted. The action in this sequence isn't bad, but really needs HD and preferably 3D to do it justice. Of course, the head falls overboard and Shaw does the stupidest thing possible, risking her life for a fragment of a corpse which they could either recover after the storm or just study the rest of the giant corpse, but if she thought that, then we wouldn't have David's robotic perfection to thank for saving them from their own idiocy.
All right, Doc, this is real good to have you back, but where's Milburn and Fifield?
Aren't they back yet?
Oh, the one with all the high-tech navigation equipment didn't make it back in time, even though he headed out far sooner because he got lost somehow. And of course that means that he and his random bud from earlier are all alone. But forget about them, we've got to reveal the truth about the engineers.
Now, let's see whose glowing phosphorus face Redbeard really is.
Don't you just love it when the fantastic alien species turns out to be a guy in a suit? Neither do I. They probe his ear, which obviously is uncomfortable, but then... don't know why, but I suddenly have this craving for gushers. Holloway, on the other hand, feels like a few gallons of booze to wash away the sense of failure. Wait, what?
Was to meet our makers, to get answers. Why they even made us in the first place.
You barely stepped down on the planet, you know, and what you've found so far are the most important finds in history? Keep looking? In this state, David finds it easy to trick the man into drinking some of the black goo, which he mixes into the alcohol because, of course, alcohol has no adverse effects on organic compounds. I'm sure you're wondering why David would secretly secure an unknown compound and then use a random crew member as a guinea pig. It's very simple, actually. You see, it's... he was... it was a... okay, let me see if I got this right. David, who has no emotions, was curious and wanted to experiment and disliked Holloway, so he used him as a guinea pig to test out the compound that he had no idea what it was and didn't do any kind of lab experimentation on beforehand to see what the hell the compound was consisting of because fuck it, never mind, let's just get back to the movie. Holloway returns to Shaw, somehow not drunk, and she shows him more incredible discoveries.
Their genetic material predates ours. We come from them.
Are you at any time going to maybe try to explain why chimpanzees are 99% the same as humans genetically? Or, all the similarities with the evolutionary tree and phylogeny and all that says, Superman isn't cutting it for me. Therefore, Holloway's mood is improved from depressed to apathetic.
Nothing special about the creation of life, right? Anybody can do it. I mean, all you need is a dash of DNA and half a brain, right?
I can't create life.
Wow, this is a awkward time to bring that up. Surprise character trait, Shaw is barren! So that obviously means they've got to start fucking to make her feel better. Speaking of reproduction, Fifield and Milburn decide the safest place to camp out is by that room of black goo with the decapitated body that made them want to go back to the ship in the first place.
I don't know, kind of looks like...
What's that?
After spending hours running around the corridors scared of every shadow, now for some reason they are absolutely enthralled with the tentacle monster. As is easily predicted, the proto-facehugger isn't very friendly, and after breaking his arm, they attempt to slice it off. Acid for blood. Good. Instantaneous regeneration. Weird. So, not a face hugger, a throat fucker. Now that they're good and dead, the storm subsides, so everyone can go in looking for them. They learn quick enough that at least Milburn is very dead. And we learn that no Xeno chest burster yet. Holloway isn't looking much better at this point, so it's a rush to get him back to the ship for help. Not too fast though, as David has broken off from the main group to fiddle with more engineer tech. This provides us with another holographic CGI fest, which is, again, more impressive in HD, but phenomenal in 3D, showing us the engineer's seeded life in many star systems, including ours. After this abruptly ends, David makes one final discovery. One of the Supermen from 2,000 years ago isn't dead, and he has faith that he will return. Wait a minute. Never mind the Ridleyanity for a moment. Holloway's condition is worsening by the second, and Vickers is waiting at the hangar door with the alien movie tradition of a flamethrower.
He's not coming on board.
Vickers, this is a sick man!
I can see that. That's why he's not coming on my ship.
Why is it that 90% of the time I find myself agreeing with the mean characters of this movie? They bicker back and forth until even Holloway admits that Vickers is right about this one, and he lets her end his suffering. By increasing it 500 times over. Get a gun, people! After this, Shaw is taken to quarantine under the care of David, whom removes her cross right before telling her some shocking news.
My. You're pregnant.
Oh, the miracle of life! A blessing of...
Get it out of me. Get it out of me!
Or you could scream at the top of your lungs for an abortion. To be fair, David does mention that the fetus isn't exactly traditional, but hearing those words from her so soon after the cross is removed, it just raises one of my eyebrows. A quick sedative later, and she is out cold, but when we return, she explodes from the table in one of the most memorable scenes of this movie.
Please verbally state the nature of your injury.
I need cesarean.
Error. This med pod is calibrated for male patients only.
Male patients only? What the hell was it doing in Vickers' private quarters? Uh-oh. That gripe aside, the tension of this scene is great, as she details the procedure herself while shooting up with painkillers and races against the clock with the machine's time and movements and the creature's attempts to breach the womb. One other thing that bugs me about this, though...
Congratulations, Reg. It's a squid.
A lot of these weird designs are actually similar to early concept artwork for the original Alien that was discarded for good reason. But her self-stapling and decontamination of the Metapod are interrupted when Fifield's camera comes back on, as it evidently was simply switched off all this time, and they do the logical thing of opening the door before even finding out his condition.
Fifield?
Yeah, when his mask got acidified, he got black gooed. And this is what happens to a man when he gets black gooed. He turns into Mr. Hyde. They lose half their crew to him and finish him off with a flamethrower, which is starting to make me wonder why they brought so many flamethrowers to a scientific expedition in deep space. There's no oxygen. Never mind that, though. Shaw returns to the medical area, since no one decided to come after her all this time, and finds out that Mr. Wayland has been in hypersleep all this time.
If these things made us, then surely they could save us. Well, save me, anyway.
Save you from what?
Death, of course.
I know he's been sleeping the whole movie, but I really don't think that this is the best planet to avoid death on. She pretty well explains that to him, but they ignore her warnings and even invite her to tag along. Because when shit goes down, it's best to have all the important characters in one central location. It makes editing a whole lot easier. And before they go, Vickers reveals a secret to the audience.
Anything else?
No. Father.
That explains everything! I know it doesn't. When the hell did he knock up her mother, in his 70s? That deathly important character building out of the way, and they return to the navigation area. David informs us that the engineers were interrupted in the process of leaving with their massive shipment of black goo.
Leaving to go where?
Earth.
Specifically America, in the state of California and the city of Los Angeles. Every alien race knows that that is where you make first contact. They wake up the big guy, and David begins talking to him, though something might be lost in translation. Okay, while there are no subtitles, David actually tells them that Wayland wants to live forever, and in the Blu-ray exclusive extended cut of the scene, the engineer responds that if they were immortal, they would have not had bothered making men. And in both versions, it ends with him trying to kill everybody. Which he succeeds in, except for Shaw, whom has no problem running away, even though her abdominal muscles aren't exactly connected right now. But the engineer decides to pick up where he left off, starting the ship up on the mission to destroy Earth. Oh, it's a special navigation suit that's so big, not the creature itself. Those aren't shoulders and arms, it's just part of the chair. God, that's disappointing. An orgy of eye candy and Shaw's Wolverine-style regeneration is in full force as she runs and leaps towards the ship, warning the captain that the alien craft is going to Earth with shit tons of goo, so he decides to ram the ship while Vickers flees via an escape pod. Honestly, a nice way for three of the less annoying characters to heroically go out, though I am a bit disappointed that the ship didn't blow up 3 or 4 times. The engineer vessel crashes down right where Shaw and Vickers happen to be. Strafe. Strafe. Strafe! Good! Strafe. No. Strafe! The ship then topples over, just like the one in Alien, though this isn't the one from Alien, evidently. It just looks exactly like it in every way possible. Making it to the lifeboat, Shaw discovers something horrid. The squid baby didn't die, but grew to monstrous size, escaped from the surgical room, wrecked the place, and then locked itself back inside the surgical room. The engineer also survived the crash, but Shaw's baby is very interested in having him as a new friend to play with. Much larger facehuggers were also part of the original design for Alien, and for some reason they thought they looked silly. Now that she's all alone, David contacts her again, and it turns out that there were several engineer ships, and they can get back to Earth. She is more interested in finding the engineer homeworld instead.
They created us. Then they tried to kill us. They changed their minds. I deserve to know why.
So this movie built up answering all these big questions, and answered very few, and gave us even more questions, and they might be answered in a sequel. Yay! The movie closes with a warning transmission that would make sense if this were on LE-426, but never mind that. The engineer gets the final curtain, and we finally see... a proto-Xenomorph thing. Like, completely bypasses the chestburster face and has no tail. Well, that was Prometheus. Eh? Yes, Ridley Scott did actually say this was not a prequel to Alien, just a movie in the universe that predates all the others, so a prequel, but not a direct prequel. Nevertheless, it was originally scripted to be on LV-426, and the clash of trying to explain the setup of Alien and then trying to rewrite it into a more original story doesn't keep it completely comprehensive. But at the end of the day, it's the questions brought up and left unanswered that bother me the most. I know that a film that leaves a lot of loose ends can still be great, and there are several like that I appreciate for just that, but when you set up such profound questions that beg for answers under the basic pretense of making a film to answer questions, it helps if you don't leave the sheet blank at the end. I must admit, I did gather some entertaining hypotheses from fellow viewers for what it all meant, but the movie itself just left me with sequel bait. Obviously, though, there is a lot to like about this movie aesthetically. The visuals are phenomenal, it's great in 3D, and despite the writing of the characters being woefully shallow, the actors did a fantastic job with all the roles. As an Alien fan, this film annoys me for dumbing down the space jockeys to just big people and giving such a convoluted evolution for the Xenomorphs. As a science fiction fan, the horribly unscientific scientists make me nauseous, but the flashy tech is a more than pleasant distraction. Overall, the fact that it was written by one of the writers of Lost is probably the best indicator for whether or not you'll like it. I can't stand Lost's style of making shit up as they go along to maybe answer later or not. Others love discussing the possibility of what everything means. If you are one of the former, Prometheus will be a beautiful letdown. For the latter, it may be an intriguing work, even an underrated masterpiece. From where I stand, it entertains just as well as it underachieves, bringing in 3 tentacle monsters out of 5. I do like it better now than when I first saw it, but not enough to boost it a whole star. Maybe later I'll see it as a classic, especially if the sequels help it out, but for now, it's just far too shallow with how profound it tries to profess itself as. Thank you all for watching, I have been Dr. Shado, and remember, the Church of Ridleyanity welcomes all with open arms.
Well, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. Love the one you're with.